Hey guys, welcome back to another 3D printing video. And today we're going to be looking at the Ender 3 and doing a few more upgrades and also taking a look at the print quality that this printer produces. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so overall I've been very pleased with this printer and I'm actually getting a very good experience with it so far. Everything is pretty easy to use and has yielded me really good prints overall. So I haven't printed a bunch on it yet, but I have printed a few larger parts that fill up the bed and I'll be sharing those a little bit later in the video. So my spool holder over here has been doing pretty well overall and I've actually been enjoying it being in this location here because it's been very easy to feed it and the roll feeds right into the extruder here with no issues whatsoever. And obviously I've been enjoying this tray here, having all my tools and everything in one spot. And also it's been kind of nice to have this cover on the back of the screen here. So that way when I do put my hand under it, I'm not, touching the circuit board under there. And this power supply on the Ender 3 Pro is very nice because this fan very rarely turns on unless you got the bed heated really high. Even then it still just comes on and off. And it's pretty quiet. So this power supply is a great upgrade for sure to the Ender 3. And it would be nice if they made this available as a parts order purchase for the original Ender 3s because this seems like a great power supply here. And also guys, you can see how thin that is. You almost cannot see it when you're just in front of the printer, which is really nice. Gives it a more premium feel for sure. So my Bowden tube here has pretty much been the same. I left it as it is. This still moves just barely, maybe like a millimeter or so. But I'm thinking about upgrading to, not sure what it's called, but I think it's copper core or something like that. The tubing, it's like a more higher end tubing. So I might do that eventually. But for now, this has been fine. Even with the retraction speed that I haven't had any issues with that little tiny bit of movement there. So one of the things I noticed on this extruder here is that this knob off. This clamping spring here is not, for some reason, very good because a couple times I caught it not pushing hard enough and it would skip a little bit. But then when I pulled it back like this, as you can see, it went more this way. It was fine. I don't know if maybe that has to do with this bolt here being a little tight, but it doesn't feel like it though. Upgrading to the metal one would be a good choice of the spring clamp thingamajigger here. And obviously, guys, this knob has been pretty awesome to be able to see and to feed the filament in. So I want to do a few more upgrades to Ender 3 Pro here. So let's start with the first one, which is this hot end cover. It's like a silicone cover for the hot end. So I got this straight from Creality official. Actually, I got this on Amazon, but it is the official. So essentially it's just a little heat cap, I guess, that goes on the bottom here. And these are a reasonably good deal. I think they're under $10 or around there somewhere. And it comes with 3 of them, which I already have 2 Creality printers, so I could use 2 of them. So on here it says MK9. So there's just these 2 little screws here that we're gonna need to take out. So here we can see the assembly a lot easier. So here we have the heat break where the filament comes in and again stays cool, and then as it gets down to the block here where it heats up, this is where we have a little sock here, or whatever you call this, insulation. Now I'm not sure if this rubber one just goes on top of this or you got to take that off. I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and try to put it on there. So the bigger opening here goes where the wires come in. So it should just slide over. Yeah, it looks like that's definitely not supposed to go on with the insulation. I just hope the insulating properties are just as good or better than this that's already here. So I guess we're going to need to cut all this away. Alright, so I just snipped the tape from here to here. And now it looks like it's just coming off easily. Actually, that is very thin. Appears to be another piece on there still. And that looks like it's already kind of a bit overheated. Alright, let's see if we can slide our new piece on. Now it definitely has a much better, actually a perfect fit. So hopefully you guys can see that. Pretty nice little silicone sock. So I can definitely tell that this goes down quite a bit lower here. And that should prevent the filament stringing up and sticking to the top here. So Alright, so that was a very easy upgrade. So now we're just going to put this back, put those 2 bolts back in, and we're done. And hopefully that'll give us a little better thermal insulation there with that. So as you can see, guys, that was a very easy and actually pretty, cheap upgrade. Especially if you have more than one printer, you could definitely use the 3 that they provide. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be upgrading is this whole assembly here. So I don't really like the way this just doesn't feel good for some reason, and it seems to bind a little or something. And because it's made out of plastic, it just seems like it's not as sturdy like this would be. So this is an official kit here from Creality. Let's take a look at it here. It comes with quite a few pieces, and it is all metal, which looks to be aluminum. And also the coupler here has a thread on there. Just seems to be a much better quality overall. And look at that, they even gave us a little nozzle here. I don't even know what size that is, but I'm guessing it's a 0.4. Here we have the teeth gear that pushes against the filament. The spring looks a little different. It's more shiny than the one that I got on here right now. And what's cool is they give me another coupler, so I'm actually going to try this and see if it's better and if it'll hold my tube. And here's the hardware here. So let's go ahead and take this one off. So I got a little clip on here, which I 3D printed, and that just separates this piece here so the tube doesn't move as much. So now all we got to do is just take off these Allen bolts there. And I think we need to take this handle off first also, because there's another bolt hiding right there underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and take the arm off first. Alright, so that was easy enough. So once you loosen those 3 bolts, the whole motor actually is loose. So we can see that right there. And then this thing should just slide right off. And here we can compare it to the new one. So the first thing I'm noticing is that the new one does not have this little cable bracket clip on the side there. We do have a custom made one right here where the filament guide is. So that's not a big deal. And the rest looks to be about the same. So this new piece will just go right on top of here. Same way, and then we're gonna bring the motor up. So I got those 3 started. Now we can go ahead and tighten them. So kind of the strange thing is that on the older one here, the plastic one, you can see that there's a little nub here. The new one doesn't have that. Same thing over here. So it just has a hole with the thread in it. And I guess what they want you to do, because you got 2 extra bolts here, is use the bolt as the little nub to hold the spring in place. So I guess we just need to start our bolt into there and into here. I'm thinking this one maybe needs to go the other way, maybe through here. That way I can tighten it and it's not going to be wobbling around. So I screwed this one in until it got tight. Alright, so the next step is we're going to put the little spacer in here and then the long bolt. And that should line up very well just right there. But we got to not forget our spring, obviously. Here's the new spring. It's a little bit more shiny than the old one. So I guess we'll go ahead and use the new one. And it's actually bigger too, you can see. Hopefully this won't be too hard. Alright, so I went ahead and threaded the bolt down and got this pretty straight here. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this a little bit, not too hard. Man, that feels really good. It feels strong, but it's very smooth. You can tell it's pushing really good that way. Way better than the original one. So it's possible that the spring can move around. Let's see, I can show you guys. You can see there. It can move around up and down and everywhere, but it's not going to fall out, obviously. Just line it up pretty straight and leave it like that. It should be fine. Alright, so for the last part, let's put this coupling on. And it feels so good that, all this is going to metal threads, metal to metal here. So now we should be able to put our tube in. So I'm going to go ahead and put this little spacer back in that I printed out. Alright, and that went in very well. So let's see if our tube moves now or not. I'm kind of curious, to be honest. There's no play anymore. Well, that's good. So I guess I did have a batch of bad couplings. Because that's a bad one here, and I actually have an extra one that they gave me right there, and that one's bad too. Well, I'm happy about that because that fixes my Bowden Tube problem also. Definitely turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and it definitely feels a lot better too. Anytime you got pressure involved with a pretty strong spring, plastic just doesn't do the job as good. So this is a great upgrade. So I can go ahead and put my knob back on, and we're good to go. Alright, so the next upgrade leads us to these benchy here that I printed. So this is the very first benchy that I printed on this printer. So as you can see, it does not look all that great. And there's only 2 walls on the outer shell. So the overhangs are actually very reasonable. And everything else looks great. Like the structure is very good, but the details are just not there. I don't know if you can see this, but on the side here, you can see there's artifacts, and I think that's what they call Salem skin. It's basically vibrations from the printer going into the print, like stepper motor vibrations, and you could probably tell pretty easily there how bad that looks. And that's one of the reasons I printed this in black, is so we can see a lot better of what's going on. So for comparison's sakes, this is an Ender 2 print here, and hopefully you guys can see there's a lot less or almost none of that Salem skin stuff. There still is a little bit, but a lot less. Almost none. This benchy here actually, guys, is probably one of the best benchies that I have from any printer. As you can see, it's still not perfect, but it's very good. And the Ender 3 still did better than the Ender 2 because it has that dedicated fan for the overhangs. So you can see the overhangs are a lot better here. Alright, so the idea here is to install TL smoothers. So these are diodes that let current flow only in one direction. And here you can see the diodes. And I've actually printed out these little holders for mine. They're custom made because the ones I bought were, looked a little different here. You can see they're more square. But the idea here is that whenever power flows this way, it can flow, but it cannot flow backwards. Same thing on this side. Whenever power flows this way, it can flow, but it cannot flow backwards. And you can tell by the, well, I don't know if you can tell, but there's like a little lines here. So these diodes are facing that way, and then these two center diodes are facing this way, and these two are facing that way. So basically these are essentially one-way valves for electricity, and it's for preventing like back spikes from the motor and things like that will cause very micro vibrations in the movement of parts whenever the motor is switching directions. I think most of the time is when you get the biggest spike that you're trying to get rid of, and this should be able to get rid of that. So these are simple as plug and play. So we should just plug these in, and it comes with a little extension here. And if you are going to get some, make sure you get the one that has 8 diodes, because it seems like the 8 diode ones are having a better result. So that's the ones I went with. So alright, so let's install these, and these are very simple to install, and we're going to have to go underneath the machine for this one. Alright, so however you turn your machine upside down, I guess I'm not going to turn it upside down because I have this shelf here. And what you're going to do is you're going to take off this plate right here underneath. So this is from the Pro. The normal Ender 2 will have this plate on the top. So there's just only 3 little bolts holding this. Well, there's more than 3. There's actually one up here, looks like, that we might have to take off. So yeah, that's definitely it, because it's starting to move now, as you guys can see right there. So this cover comes off easily after that, and here we can see the board, with the drivers here on this side. So we're not going to do the Z. I feel like the Z is not necessary. Even though this came with 3, I'm only going to use 2. And I've only printed 2 of these little holders here. So it looks like these connectors here have some hot glue, so I guess we're going to have to try to get them out carefully here. But we're just going to do the X and the Y, because that's where most of our movements come from. The Z only moves a tiny bit as it prints, so that should not, play the effect. Alright, so I just tugged on them a little, and the glue broke loose really easily. It looks like it's just hot glue, so not a big deal. So the idea here is that, this connector here will go in one of the plugs, and then the other one, you'll plug in the cable that comes with it, and then this will plug in into the stock connector here. Just like that. And everything is labeled, guys, by the way, so you won't get it confused. And so then our original wire will plug into here. Simple as that. Now we're done. So now we just gotta, make sure we put this in somewhere where it's not going to be, touching anything. But I think if I leave it just like that right there. So here's our second one. And these little holders you can find on Thingiverse. And then what I did is just adjusted it to mine where it'll fit perfect. Well, actually almost perfect. What I did was I chopped these guys off just like that. It's still soldered on really good, so it's just this is excess that's sticking out. So now we can go in there perfectly, just like that. Alright, so both of our diodes, or TL smoothers, whatever they call them, are in. I guess it is a smoother. So in the back here it's a smoother. Alright guys, so I got the cover holding with my hand, but one of the TL smoothers ended up being here on higher a little bit. You can see through the grill there, and the other one is way down here. So they should be just fine right there where they are. And we're going to go ahead and put the bolts back on and flip this thing around, and can't wait to see the result. Alright, so we're back around and all the bolts are back in there. So let's go ahead and power it on, and then we'll see if all the axes work, because I will need to home it and check my bed level. So let's go ahead and home it. Alright, seems to be working. Alright, so now that we know our level is pretty good, we can go ahead and preheat it and put our roll in, our filament. So what I used for this black benchy here is this filament here, and this is a pretty good filament. I'm actually liking it a lot, except for the spool holder here. It's kind of weird, it's not round, but it'll be fine. And I love the way it's wound. As you can see, it's wound very uniformly. Cut the tip on an angle, and then we're going to feed it into our new extruder assembly here. Alright, I'm going to need 2 hands for this. So the filament is in, and I do still have some yellow in there that I'll have to push out. Yeah, that was a little more yellow than I thought was in there. Alright, so we're using the same G-code with the same filament and all the same settings as we did this one, except now we have the Tls Meters. And I don't put anything on the bed, any kind of glue or anything, because it actually sticks great to this magnetic mat here. I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would in the beginning, because of the ease of how easy the prints pop off. So preheating takes usually about 2 minutes or so, I don't know, something like that. Not too long, but it definitely takes a little longer than the Ender 2 because of the bed size. But it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's done with the bed now, so it's going to 205. So it should start printing here very shortly. Alright, and there it goes. But you can see there it purrs the perfect line and start printing. So I usually like to take this purge off right away, because later when it dries it's harder to take off. Let's see if I can zoom in there so you guys can see maybe. And as you can see, it's printing perfectly without any issues, straight on the bed. And it looks like our new extruder assembly there is doing really well. Alright guys, so I left the benchy printing and I had to run out and do some errands and stuff, and this is what I come back to. This is the first time this happens to me. So it looks like I jinxed myself, or whatever you want to call it, and it didn't stick very good to the bed. So it did finish. It took 2 hours and 56 minutes there. Check out where the benchy ended up, way over there. So maybe we can still look at them, because we do have a pretty good indication here. Okay, so it does look like the bottom lifted on the front here a little bit, and I'm guessing that's what those lines are there right in the middle. But if we ignore those lines there, I can definitely tell that there is a difference for sure. So hopefully you can see that. So the new one's on the bottom with the smoothers, and the one on the top is without the smoothers. And you can see that there's definitely a difference. So here you can maybe tell a little better. So I can definitely tell that there is a difference, and it's pretty significant. Hopefully you can see that, guys. So here we are on the first benchy, and you can see all those patterns there in the print. And then here's our new one, and you can see it looks a lot finer. Alright guys, so I'm thinking I'm going to print another one just for my own sake. And yeah, so I want to see what the walls look like a little better and things like that, because just by looking at it I can definitely tell it's a lot better. So it's not like a huge significant difference, but it is definitely better for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and set up another one. Probably going to readjust the bed a little bit closer. Alright, so I started a new benchy, but I decided to use the red filament, which I do with all my benchy tests because it's the filament that I know very well. I figured since, you know, we kind of see already what this one looks like. Well, let's see what a, you know, benchmark benchy will look like here with the same filament that I always test with. So it looks like we're at a good start. Everything looks good. Hopefully we're not going to have any issues, and we'll see what this benchy will look like with this red filament that I always use. It's actually PLA Plus. Alright, so our benchy is done, and it looks really good. There's something a little funny right here. I wonder what happened there. Almost looks like there was something in the filament. Let's see, it should pop off pretty easy. There it goes. Bottom looks really good also. Check out those sides, guys. Wow. That is definitely a lot better. Wow, this is a really good benchy here, guys. So you can see, guys, that the Salem skin is very minimal now. And look at that wall. That's basically perfection. And look at the wall over here. There's no weird lines or anything. So here's the Ender 2. And I don't know if you guys will be able to see it or not, but the Ender 2 is still a tiny bit better. Like, it's very minimal, but if you look at the Ender 2 and you go to the Ender 3, you can still see more artifacts in the Ender 3. But they're very close. They're absolutely very close now. So considering the Ender 2 has a much smaller bed, there's way less mass to move around. So that makes sense why the Ender 2 is so good. And why the Ender 3 can probably never be that good because of the size of the bed. I mean, we're talking about a much bigger bed here. So yeah, I think we hit the sweet spot. It looks perfect. Very happy about the results. So here is the final look from where we came from to the next one here. And to the red benchy here. Let's put these guys together here. So hopefully you guys were able to see that. And I think the Tls Meters definitely did the trick. Alright, so now that we're done printing with the benchies and we got that figured out, I actually want to print something huge on here. So I want to print a little trash can, like for little pieces, extra pieces just laying around, the filament. Just trash basically, filament trash. But I want to print it efficiently, so I'm going to print it in spiralize mode. And I'm going to print it in this silver here. That should turn out really nice. Alright, let's see if we can find our little, alright, here we go, thin box. Alright guys, so I'm going to run a Gopro also. So hopefully that turns out alright. So it purges on the side like that always. Yeah, this is going to be a very large print, guys. Wow, that is literally to the edge. It's actually more to the edge than I thought it would be. Maybe I'm making this trash can too big, now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, look how small the bench is. So I got it pretty hot on the first layer, 215. And then I think I got 210 on the whole thing, because I wanted to do it pretty hot. That way it melts together really good, since it's only one layer. Spiralized all around. So with our fingers crossed, we'll see how it goes. Alright, and it's the next morning, and look what is on the printer. I think I underestimated how big this thing would be. It is filling up the whole printer. So it took 10 hours and 29 minutes to print. Not too bad. But that is one large print. But there is an issue, and I don't know if you can see on camera, probably right here on this wall you can see easily. It warped. I guess because of the large size and only one layer thick, it warped. I guess you can look at it as more of a styling cue now than anything. X-axis here is almost all the way to the top. Of course, it did raise a little bit off the top here when it was done. So this really shows off that you could print a very large items on the printer, guys. Let's take a peek inside. So the bottom floor overall looks really good. Honestly, I'm pretty impressed of, that it even printed. And this just goes to show that, you could use the limit of your bed. You could still go even more than this. But I don't think that more than this would be a good idea, probably. Alright, so the challenge now would be to take it off the bed. And hopefully I can take it off without breaking it. And this is where that magnetic mount is probably going to come handy. Alright, so I'm going to shut the printer down. So I think the hardest part would be to raise this thing because we're so close here to the top. Alright, so I'm just going to try to peel this magnetic bed off. I don't know if it's going to peel off or not. This size. Oh, it is. Wow. As I just lifted off the whole print, that size, I mean, we're talking about 90% of the bottom of the bed being filled up. So on a traditional bed, this would be almost, impossible to get off. And this being a very fragile item. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and peel it, and let's see what happens. Wow, super cool. I'm super impressed with this bed. And check out the bottom, it actually turned out really good. So as you can see, guys, if you're going to print large objects that have a lot of surface area, You know, a magnetic bed like this on the Ender 3 Pro is beautiful. And as you can see, guys, I didn't use any glue or anything for the bottom. Everything stuck and nothing rose. Let's see what this trash can looks like. So you can see the warping. And this is a nice filament. It's got a shine to it. If you look at the layers, they are ultra even. I mean, this is like great results here, guys. So even though we're warped and we look crazy, the quality of the actual prints laying down are excellent. So I'd have to say this trash can is a success, and we can definitely put trash in it, like this benchy that failed. And now I can have a little bin here just full of extra plastic. Alright guys, and the last thing I wanted to show you is this piece right here. This I printed on the Ender 3 Pro here. This is one of the first prints that I've done that was at a substantial size here, and it printed out great. And this was printed at 0.2. It turned out beautiful, and I printed this with supports, and the supports popped off really easy. So I'm just impressed at this printer. This printer is a great printer. I mean, and everything you throw at it, it seems like it's good at it. It's like it's just good at everything. You can want details, it's got the details. You know, you want large pieces, you got large pieces. So just an amazing all-around printer. Alright guys, so as you can see, I really love this printer. The little upgrades that we did, that just made this printer that much more better. So this just proves that you don't have to spend a ton of money to get a really good printer. And I think that Ender 3 has that reputation for sure. So if you're still thinking to get the Ender 3, I wouldn't hesitate too much. And I would actually recommend to buy the Pro model. And the reason for that is because you just start off better, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I know it's a little bit more, but if you shop around, you can find a Pro for not much more than the original Ender 3. You are going to pay $50–$60 more, but I think it's worth it because the power supply that you get and the other little few details just make it worth it, seems like to me at least. And the magnetic bed, obviously, that's, you know, I would say it's pretty important, you know, especially for beginners, because that would make printing a lot easier. Well, hopefully you guys like this video. I'm sorry if it's a little long. Technically, we only did 3 upgrades, and all 3 of them in my opinion were worthwhile, and they're not that hard to do, especially for those that just getting started. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then hit that like button, and stay tuned guys for more videos to come. I am building an axial generator, which that should be a very interesting build, and most of that is 3D printed obviously. And I got a lot more printer videos coming up, and eventually we're going to be unboxing new printers, so stay tuned for all that. And also, if you're interested in the printer, I'll have some links in the description. Check those out. So if you like videos like this and you're not subscribed, then hit that subscribe button. And as always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.